Okay, for those of you who've got a lumbar disc bulge, or a protrusion, you're in for a treat because unfortunately I have just suffered one of those as well. Long story is from a compression injury when I was skiing a couple of weeks ago. So I went off a rise, landed with legs straight and jarred my back. And that has caused a traumatic disc bulge in my lower back, L5-S1. Now, I went through a few weeks of being acutely sore, not being able to move, and done a lot of exercise, and I've put it all together for you guys to try and help you get better in the first few weeks, tell you what to do, what not to do, the best tips, the best positions, the best stretches to help you through to get to where I am today. So this is going to be one of quite a few videos we're going to do to help you through all those stages. The first one's talking about what's the worst position for that disc, acute disc injury or the disc bulge for you to try and stay out of, so you understand a little bit more about what's happening with the disc, how it's got to heal, what position you need to be in for the best amount of pain relief, and to help it get better so you can be on the road to recovery. Now let's have a little look at what's happening with the disc. The disc is very dynamic, okay? And don't get me wrong, discs are very robust, but hey, I'm 49. My disc has already got a bit of wear and tear, if you like, a bit of degeneration because I'm older. There'll be a bit of bulging there already. And the number one cause of disc bulges is sitting, right? A low grade, under the radar, sitting pressure to weaken the wall with age over time. But I've added on a compression to that. So if you imagine here is your disc, right, between the two vertebrae, you see it there. You can see how the nerve roots come out the side, okay? There's the spinal cord sitting at the back. Now, when you have a little bit of degeneration just through time and age, that bulge happens to the back, okay? So meaning going that way towards all the spinal nerves and that sort of thing. Okay, now if we sit for long periods of time, and usually we sit in a flex position, we don't sit bolt upright like we do when we stand. What can happen is we put pressure on the front, so we sit on the front, and what that does is it pushes pressure to the back. Okay, so it tends to push the nucleus material inside the disc and pushes into the back wall. Now that disc is robust over time, okay? But as you get older, that slowly gets weaker. Okay, just as a heads up, if you become a member of this channel, you can get exclusive access to the exact exercises that we give our clients here in the clinic with the exact cueing, instruction, technique correction, so you can get your rehab done right. We're uploading over 700 of our new videos, so head to the members area and check it out today. And if I've added a compression on, so I've come in, landed down and gone bang, and that's bulged it out like acutely. Okay, that's where my problem is. Now some people, they might do it in the gym, right? They might lift something heavy and they go, oh, I felt it then. But that's not the cause of the disc bulge, that's just the last straw. So don't get me wrong, disc bulges don't sort of happen out of the blue usually. There's something underlying there, which is age and time and usually sitting, okay? So I'm gonna go through what you need to do to try and reverse that. Okay, meaning if the bulging backwards is the problem, we need to reverse that a little bit more, okay, and what positions we need to be in for longer periods of time while we're in that acute phase to get it better, to help it improve and create what we call an environment to get that disc better, all right? So think of when I'll go through standing versus sitting, okay? Now it's important that we go through a lot of education today because this is how, or part of how you're going to get better, is understanding a little bit more. It's all well and good doing your exercise and stuff, but if you don't get the concept of what you're supposed to be doing, you're not going to do as well. So have a look at this. This is an old suit I've got, okay? Flattened one. It's got a bit of a leak somewhere, so it's a bit floppy. Really good to show you what's going on with a disc. Imagine that's the disc in between my vertebrae, okay? If I stand in the middle of it, okay, I can keep it nice and even. Like this is sort of standing, right? If I sit, it's like me putting all the pressure on one side and it bulges the other, okay? So if I stand in the middle, which is like me standing upright, okay, my pressure's even. Therefore, this pressure here will be even, okay? If I sit flexed, so if I am sitting in a chair like this, and I just sit like that, okay, which I can feel that already. If I sit like that, I can feel my back, okay? That's like me putting all the pressure on the front. You watch what happens to the back. Bulges the back, okay? So if I put too much pressure here for a long period of time, that, if you can see that constant pressure is pushing that bulge here, all right? Now that wall, the back of the disc, is very strong, okay? You'll see a lot of literature about how strong it is, and it is. But as you get older, constant this weakens it, okay? Merges nucleus through the back wall, okay? Sometimes it opens up and you get a protrusion, it pokes out, okay? Then you're in a little bit more trouble. Now that can cause back pain, sciatica, all sorts of things. So can protrusions. But let's just focus on the bulging side of things, right? Now, when you're standing, what tends to happen is you stand neutral. You're neutral. You don't flex when you stand. You sort of stand neutral, okay? The big thing about standing though is my center of gravity is right through the spine, okay? Now the spine's supposed to sit in a natural curve, right? It's supposed to have a natural curve. So a curve there, and a curve there, 3 curves. The lumbar curve, so when I stand, my spine is actually in a curve like that. Now that's neutral, all right? What that does is it keeps the pressure even all the way through. If I sit poorly, I tend to straighten it up and even flex it. And you can imagine now what's happening is that's like standing on the front of this, okay? So I push pressure that way, all right? So the sitting part of things, I'll just pause, I've got to regroup that. So if I'm a neutral, 1, I keep centered, I keep pressure even, but 2, which is the biggest thing compared to sitting, all my muscles are naturally on. My glutes are on, my hip flexors, I've got core working here, my back muscles, everything's holding my spine and supporting my spine, distributing the load, okay? When I sit, because people might say, yeah, but what if I just sit with a neutral spine? Isn't that the same? It's not. So if I'll take that away, I'll come to that in a minute. If I sit and I hold myself upright, that's the same position of my spine as when I stand. However, I don't have the support of my legs, okay? So what tends to happen is I lose the support of my glutes, and my hip flexors, they just all turn off, okay? So I don't have that support underneath. What tends to happen is if I try and hold myself up there all day, I'm going to get massive fatigue in my lower back. And that trigger tends to make you go, I'll just relax a little bit. And as soon as you relax, bang. Okay, so as much as you think you're going to hold yourself up, you actually end up going into neutral or inflection, which is going to push pressure that way. And again, you're instantly worse than standing. So standing for a lot of people is a really good option. Using a standing desk, reducing the sitting time is crucial in that acute phase, because down the track, yes, you should be able to sit for longer. And when I'll show you what to do when you're sitting with the lumbar rolls. But initially, that first 2-3 weeks, you've got to stop sitting as much, okay? The standing is great. You'll be able to stand for so much longer. The sitting, within half an hour to an hour, you're going to feel that back pain come on, okay? So we've got to try and avoid the sitting, not just because of pain. Remember, we've got to try and heal this disc up. We've got to get it stronger. If you keep making it worse by bringing the pain on, it's just going to go longer, and sometimes get worse, especially if you've got a protrusion, and that protrusion gets more and more because you're sitting. So you've got to be very careful with that. So let's have a look at, when you do sit, what you're going to do. Obviously, if you look at this, I'll show you, it's much easier for me to show you with a spine. If I put Mr. Spine in here, okay, we want to be in a neutral position, okay? Now, most people think, okay, if I just prop up a lumbar roll in there, that'll be great. And it is, and a lot of people like having the lumbar roll sitting in the lower back so it pushes them into a curve. Now, if you're like me, I don't really like the lumbar roll in that position. It doesn't make me feel good. Now, there's 2 things there. 1, it pushes you into extension. It's not naturally you're not naturally holding yourself in extension. So some people don't like being pressurized there, especially if their muscles are sore. Second thing, even though that lumbar roll is there in my lower back, what I can still do is my body can still bend to the pelvis. See that? So if I've got a low disc problem here, so an L5 disc 1 problem here, if I've jacked up my lumbar spine into extension, which is great, I can still then slump and be lazy and flex there. Now that's a problem. So what I tend to do, and what's quite common, is you put that lumbar roll down at the level of your pelvis. So you cannot move back there. And then you naturally sit, I just hold that there, it's hard if I'm not being the person there. If you naturally sit like that, there's no way I can bend backwards to the pelvis. Do you see that? So I can't flex my pelvis. And so what I can do is just, center of gravity is holding me up at this point. I would also need a lumbar roll here. So let me show you live. If you watch me, traditionally, lumbar rolls go on the lumbar spine, okay? I don't sort of like that, okay? So what I'm going to do is come forward a bit, put it right at my pelvis line there. So I physically cannot, if I sit like that with it right in the back there, I cannot flex my pelvis back. It's just locked me there. This one I need, therefore, above the lumbar spine to rest on. So now what I've got is actually a gap. Do you see that? I've got a gap in my lumbar spine. So that's sitting exactly like it would be when I'm standing. I'm supported here, I can't rock back, and I'm supported here so I don't get the fatigue of the muscles in my lower back by holding myself up all day. The lumbar rolls and the chair is holding me up, and then away I go, sitting like that, okay? If you're gonna sit, that is the best position to sit. Like I said, when you've got acute disc bulge, stop sitting. But when you have to, in the car, you've got to go to work, you've got to sit down for something, this is the position you'll be in. Now, I know it takes a lot. Oh, I've got to have a couple of lumbar rolls. So be it. You're in pain, you want to get better, this is what it's going to take. Some chairs do this. They're pretty fancy. But this is a great way of you doing it everywhere. Your car, at home, work, whatever. Okay, to keep in that position, right? But don't sit there for too long. So I hope that explains a little bit about what's happening with the disc, why you've got to stand, what you go and do when you sit. Now let's look at some homework. So we talked about how the disc is bulging to the back wall, right? Okay. Now, how are you going to reverse that? We're going to, 1, take the pain down, 2, reverse some of that bulge, and 3, create an environment for it to heal up, okay? Especially for people who've got a protrusion, who they need to reduce the protrusion and heal up the disc. And that's going to take a long time. So you've got to be good at doing these exercises for a long period of time. What we've got to do is completely think, okay, I've got to go the other way. So flexion at the moment is sort of the enemy, okay, meaning flexion and sitting. We're going to do extension. Now there's 2 ways you can do it. And it does depend on how acute you are. So the first one, golden rule. On your front, McKenzie extensions. Okay, so lying from here, slowly pushing back. What I'm doing is reversing that bulge. Okay, I'm going into extension, which is where I need to be to help settle it down. 2 seconds up there, slowly down and relax. Some people, I'm a bit lucky, okay, I've got all my range basically back, okay, and I had quite a bit of that to start with. Now that's because mine was a traumatic disc bulge, not a degenerative bulge over time. Yes, I have some degeneration because I'm not young anymore, but the cause of my problem was traumatic. So I didn't have that, you know, lots of years of sitting. I'm a physio, I'm standing more, I'm lucky, okay? But for those of you who've got, say, half the range, you're just going to have to go up to about wherever you can and then come down again. Know that slowly over time, the mission for you will be to get right up there, because then you get your full extension. Then you're going to get as much reduction of that disc bulge as possible. Now, these things need to be done like 3 or 4 times a day in the first few weeks. Okay, it's a lot. But you're going to have to think, well, I'm going to have to keep reversing all the time, okay, to try and reduce the bulge to settle it down, okay? If I don't, I'm probably either not going to get better or I'm going to get worse. Now, when you do these, I'd aim for about 3 sets of 10, okay? So a set of 10, you might do some other little things, other stretches that you've got, and then another set of 10, and then another set of 10. Now, that's 3 sets in one session. There needs to be 3 or 4 sessions. So you might be first thing in the morning, mid-morning, afternoon, evening, okay? I had to do it 4 times a day, all right? Now I'm down to about 2 or 3 times a day. So that's the first one. Now, if you've got full range with that, and you're going, yes, but I still get pain when I sit, and I've still got a problem, I can't bend forward, then you can do extensions in standing. Now, what I recommend is you don't do them like this, unless you've got nothing to lean on. So like, if you're just out and about and go, oh, I'm waiting for something, I need to do my extensions, just do them like that, okay? It's the same thing, it's just loaded. Now, if you've got enough robustness in the back wall of the disc, you can handle load and go extension, that's fine. Some people's disc bulges are so big, they can't even get backwards, okay? So maybe those ones on the floor are going to be for them until they improve. But if you can handle this, then when you're out and about doing like that, but when you are at home or at work and you've got something to lean on, that's a better option. So something like a bench top is a great thing. Now, when I was traveling, when I did this when I was skiing, I would get out of the car and do it over the bonnet of the car, okay? Looked a bit weird, but hey, it was a great thing because the right height, the bonnet of the car was the right height to lean on. So this needs to be high enough that you can actually get the back of your hips on it. What you would do is put your feet wide to lower yourself down a bit, but also keep yourself stable. You've got to keep your knees straight, then you lean on it. And remember, this isn't going to move, so you've got a bit of trust there. So when you lean backwards, you can go a lot further with this because you're not going to fall over, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, you don't want to hammer this too hard. You just feel where that sort of tightness is and then come forward. But you're going to get a much effective, more effective reduction of the disc bulge at the back and move things more centrally when you do it standing, leaning on something like this. Remember, kitchen table is probably too low, kitchen bench top, something like this, bonnet of a car, whatever works for you to try and get your loaded extension done during the day. Now, what I do is I do maybe 2 sets of that, 2 sessions of that, and 2 sessions of the floor. Okay, so there's my 4, maybe I'll do 3, depending on how I'm going through the day. But trust me, those movements are going to be your little savior in that first week, okay? Less sitting. When you do sit, use your lumbar rolls. Stand more, walking around, doing your extensions multiple times a day to try and reduce that disc pressure, reduce the bulge, the protrusion, whatever's going on in the back wall there, and then that'll create that environment for you to try and improve. Now, that's my first rant. Second video is going to go through all the daily stretches I need you to do and the stuff that I did in my first week when you're acute and you're sore and you can't really move very well to try and get you through the day and get that process underway of getting the pain down, you're moving better so you can keep progressing to get to where I am today. Last take-home tip. What you'll find, we've probably already found, is you can't bend forward, right? If you're an acute, in that first couple of weeks of an acute disc bulge herniation protrusion, whatever you want to call it, you probably find you can't bend forward. And if you do go forward, maybe you've got some sciatica, okay? Bending forward down the track when you're healthy is totally fine and should be done all the time, okay? Yes, the spine's robust. You should be able to bend forward, bend backwards without having a straight back all the time. However, when you're in that acute phase, bending forward, 1, it's painful and creates a lot of spasm. Okay, it's going to get you nowhere. Okay. 2, the flexion is not ideal for the disc bulge at this stage. That's why we do so much extension. Okay, it's like sitting. All right, it's not as bad as sitting. Like bending forward is not as bad as sitting. Trust me, because you're only doing it once. You're not staying there. The sitting, staying there is the worst thing. So picking up, bending things that's okay if it's pain-free. If you get to the point where you go forward and you're like me and you go, oh my God, I can't bend any further forward, you're going to have to bend your knees and keep your spine neutral, and then you can pick up things. So you're going to have to keep that back like that, right? And that is totally fine. It's how you squat and you deadlift anyway, all right? But for light things, usually we don't keep our back straight, we round it. But for now, you've got to keep it straight, otherwise you'll really struggle, okay? So don't be afraid to just keep your back straight, to pick up things like that. You're probably fine. Actually, I don't have any pain when I bend my knees, bend my hips, and bend my back. I feel fine, right? Know that down the track, we are going to get you bending forward when you're ready, just not right now. I know that's a lot of information today, but like I said at the start, crucial that you understand what's going on so you do all the right things in that first week to get you progressing along. Lots more to come. See you next time. Now, if you are struggling with your rehab and you need specialized, structured physio exercise rehabilitation programs for your injury and surgery, then do yourself a favor and head to physiorehab.com or click on the website link in the description below. If you like the content on this channel, then hit the subscribe button, because the bigger the channel gets, the more free videos I can put up for you to watch.